My next speaker is going to be Mohamed Ali from Bahrain. He is our guest speaker today, and for timers notice, it's going to be 20 minutes, and you've got the times on the agenda. Mohamed is first Toastmaster from Middle East to reach World Championship of Public Speaking finals in 2006 in Washington, D.C. Mohammed's experience in public speaking goes back to 30 years, but only 10 years ago, his speaking career took a sharp turn from passion to purpose, and now a mission. That incident during dinner at a kebab restaurant was his wake-up call, and since then, public speaking for Mohammed was never the same. He started telling the truth that revealed itself to him. To all the lovers of the fine art, the art of public speaking, including last year's TI convention in Vancouver, and moving to Malaysia and Sri Lanka for the 2 district conferences in May 2018. But more eagerly, Mohammed is in search of those very few who have their own deeply hidden truths and want to make a difference in their world. Because in speaking, like in everything else, Mohammed believes truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth can and will change the world. With a speech entitled Freedom of Speech, Mohamed Ali Shukri. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I hope you can hear me clearly. Yes. All right. So I thank also particularly Lorraine Taylor for inviting me, and I'm going to share the presentation. Where should be this one? Yeah. I hope you can see the presentation, right? Right? Okay. So it's a habit between me and Lorraine. She calls me to talk and I call her to talk in Bahrain. So I thank her so much. So we usually say this, are you free to talk? And finally, after a long time, Firebirds, I'm fired up and I made myself free because this is a spectacular, glad Toastmaster clap. So thank you for having me. Talking about freedom, whenever the word freedom comes to us, we think of people like Dr. Martin Luther King and probably the statue and probably Mahatma Gandhi and also Abraham Lincoln. But today I want to take you to somewhere really much further and back in history to where a simple speech and from not a famous person freed someone there, set someone free, and how you can, with a simple speech, even with the other person not knowing you, even when you're not a leader or a global leader, you can set people free when you speak. So I'm taking you back to the old times, probably around 13 centuries ago, when Islam faith came with Prophet Muhammad to the Arabian Peninsula. And just give me a note that I'm heard. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So slavery was a big issue in the Arabian Peninsula. People used to buy the poor slaves and take them as slaves. You know, they buy them and they don't, and they own them, you know, like slavery everywhere. And Islam helped many people get rid of the bad habits, but this one was really heavy. It was deeply rooted. It's not easy to take it out. So Islam proposed gradually people get rid of this habit. And it took, of course, centuries to do that. So what was the teaching? It was a set of incentives, actually, and disincentives. So if you own a slave and you're not willing to set him or her free, there were incentives. For example, if you set a slave free, in the hereafter, you will go to heaven, for example, and you'll get a lot of rewards. If you commit a sin, you can compensate that, seek forgiveness by setting a slave free. So there were a lot of rewards and ways to encourage people, motivate them to release and set their slaves free. You can also buy a slave from someone else. If he doesn't want to leave, you can buy the slave and set him free, and you will be getting a lot of deeds for that. So there are many incentives. But 2 centuries into the dawn of Islam, Prophet Muhammad is gone. So there was the story of this slave. He had a master, and every Friday the master used to take the slave to the Friday worship, Friday prayers. This is a modern picture of Friday prayers. You know, all over the world there are mosques, and we gather on Fridays where the main sermon is said. And usually there's a person who is called Imam. Now, Imam is very famous in your media and our media. The word Imam in language means just a leader. But in this context, in the mosque, Imam only leads prayers and delivers the sermon. That's all. Leads the prayers and delivers the sermon. So the master takes his slave every Friday to listen to this Imam, and he loves his sermons. The slave noticed something, that the master was really engaged with the Imam when he delivers the sermon. But more than that, he was also committed, and he abides by the preachings that the Imam used to deliver. He applies actually the preaching that he hears from the sermon, from the Imam. So, are you thinking what the slave is thinking? Of course, the slave started thinking, what if the Imam talks about freeing slaves? Then I will get my freedom. So he really wanted badly the Imam to encourage and preach people to free slaves, a subject which he didn't come across until now. So one of the Fridays, the slave sneaks to the Imam and whispers to him without his master seeing. Imam, please, can you please talk about freeing slaves? My master loves your sermons and he abides by your teachings and preachings. Can you please, for one sermon, just talk about how graceful it is to free slave? And motivate the audience, because my master will then listen to you and he will set me free. The Imam promised the slave and said, okay, son. Of course, he didn't say okay. We didn't have okay that time. But he promised him well. So the slave was so happy. He comes next week with his master and he's anticipating. The sermon starts and the Imam did not talk about freeing slaves. How bad. The slave goes back to spend another week of slavery, but maybe next week. It's only a week. I can't wait. I waited so long. I can't wait another week. Next week they come, the master comes, the sermon starts, the Imam speaks, but nothing about freeing slaves. Or maybe next week. Maybe he didn't see me. He comes next week, he makes sure that the Imam can see him, so he extends his neck, so he makes sure that the Imam is seeing, but no use. He forgot probably. Maybe we are not important anymore. Time goes by, weeks and months go by. And just as the slave lost the hope, he attends the sermon with no expectation, and suddenly the Imam speaks a full sermon about freeing slaves. And he was so enthusiastic, so motivating, to the degree, the moment he finished his sermon, Master turns to his slave and says the golden words to his slave, "You are free." Wow! Finally, by saying those words, a slave is free actually, and he was free from that moment to go everywhere. He was crying out of happiness. But guess where did he want to go first? He ran and ran, and yes, you guessed it. He went to the Imam. And he thanked him a lot. "Thank you for finally delivering the sermon that set me free. But I have a question, Imam." "Yes, my son. I waited so long. Why did it take you so long to do that? Why the delay? I waited so long." And the Imam said to him, "My son, your waiting and my delay was the reason you were set free." Of course, the slave looked at the Imam in wonder, asking for more information, and the Imam told him, "Son, when you came a few months ago and asked me to talk about freeing slaves, to be honest with you, I didn't have enough money. So I had to save more money, penny over penny, of course, at that time, dinar over dinar, until the money I saved was enough to buy a slave and set him free. And the moment I did, I felt now I can talk about this. And today I spoke about freeing slaves, and that's why you were set free." Ladies and gentlemen, friends at Firebirds and guests, I have a few questions. First of all, I want to ask that Imam, do you mean every other Friday and every other sermon and speech you were giving, you were actually practicing what you preach? That is really, really honorable. That is amazing. But I have a question for you, fellow Toastmasters and guests. When was the last time your speech set someone free? And I have another question for you. When was the last time your speech set you free? Because we cannot change the world, we cannot set anyone free if we are not free. The slave got his freedom, but have we? I love this cowboy quote. It says, proverb. It says, "The best sermons are lived, not preached." So I want to pose 3 questions to help us gather all this and put it into our lives. So I have 3 questions in 3 stages. The first question comes before you decide to speak. That's my picture in the World Championship finals in Washington, D.C. It's called Talk to Me. And Talk to Me is available with the same name you see on YouTube. But it's really about my wife. Always tells me, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. Come on, I'm a man. How much can I talk? and I decided to take this to the stage because I felt there is an issue, and I something that I really suffer and go through. So I practice the speech. I know my wife's opinion, I know my opinion, and I put it into speech. I'm ready to go to Washington. And then one day I decided, why don't I give it a test drive for real? Why don't I go and talk to my wife? So I was driving the other day with her, and this time I spoke more than a minute with my wife. And when I spoke to her, she became suddenly happy and looked to me and said, honey, wow, it's so nice you're speaking with me and you're talking to me. Okay, so you know, maybe for us it's normal, men, but you know, they need you to talk to them. So it took a shift. Maybe my delivery, when you see it in YouTube on the stage, you will feel where I'm coming from. But really, before you decide to speak, ask yourself, do I practice what I'm about to preach? Ask yourself, do I practice it consistently or occasionally? It matters. It will make a difference in your delivery and the people you're going to set free. Finally, do I apply my own advice? To what extent? How serious I am? So that's one stage, when they call you to speak about something or you decide to speak about something. The second stage, please look at yourself when you're about to deliver your speech. Watch your enthusiasm. Are you more enthusiastic to change you or them? Are you faster in fixing the society? You're really out there as a game changer, as an advocate, but when it comes to you, you're actually crawling. Are you happy and satisfied when someone tells you, oh, Muhammad Ali, your speech changed my life, whereas it didn't change your life? Do you feel more happy for people than yourself? Think again. Think again. Because you know what Mahatma Gandhi said, you must be the change you see in the world. And finally, the third stage, after you deliver a speech, and I'm sure you've been in this, has your speech affected you in any way? Has it made you smile often, talk to your wife more often? I don't know what you preach to your audience, but has your speech set you free? Sorry for the noise. Background. Recently, I shifted to help people. And one of the things I help people with my speaking, a program called Me No Speak English. It's for locals. I'm busy with them. It's something I have been doing all my life, that I am free. I can speak English without going to private schools or living abroad. But I noticed that my people need that help. So I shared with them the 4 secrets, and I didn't know it will help them this much. Sorry about this. I'm going to change. I'm going to finish soon. But when I delivered Me No Speak English to the young and old people, like, they said, thank you. I speak in the meetings for the first time. Thank you. I was considered for business trips. Thank you. I delivered my first speech in English. Thank you. Graduated. Thank you. I got promoted. In other words, they are saying to me, thank you. We got our freedom. And you can only do this when you deliver something that you have lived it, something that set you free. You cannot set anyone free if you are not free. So my personal advice would be this: no matter what is your subject, no matter how less the number of topics you speak about, make sure anything you speak about has really set you free first, because only then you can change the world. And I leave you with my quote in Vancouver: I'd rather live my speech and not give it than give my speech and not live it. So the next time anyone, whether it's Lorraine, Sudha, or Samir, if they tell you, are you free to talk? Maybe you know what it means. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. What a beautiful speech that was. And my grandma always used to say, if you don't mean it, don't say it, not even to yourself. So that's what it's all about. If you don't believe and if you're not going to be the talk you're going to deliver, then don't speak out. So thank you very much for that wonderful speech.